Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. A pleasure to connect with you guys on the I Love CVille Network. We're presented today by the talented, the high character, the undoubtedly supportive Keller Williams Alliance, KWA, a name you can trust in Central Virginia, frankly across the Commonwealth, Keller Williams Alliance. Judah Wickower is our esteemed director, and today's panel will be quite different in look and perhaps accent and or vernacular than you've come accustomed to enjoying with Real Talk with Keith Smith. There will be no Brooklyn or Queens accents today, no mustaches, and no, well, actually we do have a pocket square. We have two pocket squares. There will be we do have a bike rider on set as well.
He's kind of scruffy.
He trimmed it. Let's go to the panel. I guess here's my point. Keith Smith's not here. He's out of town. Quinton Beckham is here. Lee Elberson is here. We have three guys on set that like to have a good time, that work their tails off, that play hard, work hard. I think that embodies the three of us quite well.
Oh, yeah.
And we like to talk, and we like to champion this community. So first, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to get out of the way and highlight my friend Quinton Beckham, who I haven't seen in a minute. Que pasa, chico?
It's been a while, hasn't it?
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm not complaining.
Yeah?
Lots of travel. Just got back from Orlando.
Yeah, give us a flip book of your travel. Listen to the frequent flyer miles this man has built.
Yeah, he's been everywhere.
Oh, my gosh. I can't even keep track anymore. Orlando was great. We caught Nicole, so landed on Monday. They shut down the airports on Wednesday, and Nicole came through. My first hurricane. Never been in a hurricane before.
Did you go to a hurricane party? Do you
no.
know what a hurricane party is?
Yes. I've read about them. We had a bar in the hotel, but they closed everything. They were like, just go to your rooms. They were like, you're not from here. Just go to your rooms.
Yeah.
Really?
And I woke up at like every hour and a half all night long, and I went outside. Looked around.
And you were completely fine, right?
We were. Yeah. We were not along the coast, which really got hammered.
Lee Elberson, I haven't seen you for a few weeks, although you popped in, was it 2 days ago?
Popped in Wednesday, yeah, because I knew Alex had a show Thursday, and so
we were on a Zoom call associated with our kindergartner and his potential future. And there was nothing better than seeing Lee Elberson pop in while my wife and I were on a Zoom call over there. He dropped a engagement gift off for the very distinguished and well-read Alex Erpe of Emergent Financial Services. Shows the man's generosity and spirit and his support of his amigos. How has your life been since we last spoke?
Well, despite the events of this week, it's been life is great right now. My in-laws were visiting last weekend, and they are some of the hardest working people I know. My father-in-law patched all the drywall in our downstairs basement.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that was happening.
Painted it. It looks just like it did when we moved in. And my mother-in-law...
Were you punching holes in the basement?
We had to have some foundation work done. So they ripped out... Quinton saw it. I mean, they ripped out 3 feet of drywall across the entire basement. So he did all of that. He organized our entire unfinished basement, bought us a toolbox, organized all the tools. My mother-in-law raked the whole front yard, weeded, planted like probably 2 or 3 dozen bulbs, and so the front yard looks great. Meanwhile, I didn't really do much. Actually, I mounted some...
Hearing all this, I was just thinking, I was out of town. They could have stayed at my house. And I am proud of you to finally have a firm foundation. After 20 years of trying.
I was about to say, I feel like there's some subtext there, right? You heard that, didn't you?
That was loaded with context.
Oh, yeah, that's a Quinton comment there, yeah.
No guilt for Lee Elberson as the in-laws were grinding around the house and you sat in the lazy boy feet up, drinking a scotch?
I was mounting gutter guards while they were doing that. I was like, I got to do something. So
The gutter guard mounting is legitimate hard work, my friend. Legitimate hard work. All right, so a lot we're going to cover today. Let's start with QB, with rates dropping, now sub 7%.
Don't you guys have a bet writing on this?
Let's see. Kevin Yancey, Kevin Higgins, and Scott Morse do. There's a very good bottle of, I believe, Ragged Branch bourbon, a local bourbon, which is very good on the line. Mm-hmm. The Kevins anticipated the rates getting to 8.5. Scott Morris said, "No way, Jose."
Yeah.
The deadline for the bet is close of business 2022. They're not going to get to 8.5. I think we certainly see that Scott Morse is going to win the bet. And depending on your credit score, Quinton Beckham, they're sub 7% right now.
I think like 6.5, 6.6.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a big drop.
And we're seeing a lot of 1 and 2 year buy downs. So if you're selling your house, it's a nice way to sort of incentivize a buyer. And so it's a fixed rate mortgage version of an ARM. So the seller can pay towards your interest for year 1 and year 2, and that reduces your payments for the first couple of years in the home. Makes it easier to get settled in and do the things like buy furniture and repair things and that sort of jazz.
You know, Quinton says this all the time. We have such short-term memories, right? We think, God, the interest rates are so high compared to what they were at the beginning of this year. But historically, we're at historically low interest rates, right?
And speaking of things I say that nobody remembers,
I listen to you.
I listen to you.
yeah, and I'm not sure either of your lives are proof that that's a good idea. So there's. Remember a ways back, we were talking about how although mortgage rates are loosely connected to all of the things the Fed are doing, they're really sort of a valve. We had a bunch of mortgage applications come in when rates were still 2.5%, and the banks bumped them up to 3.25% to slow everybody down. So in the last 6 weeks, mortgage applications are down 45-50%.
Wow.
So in reaction to that, you're seeing the banks further detach and dial rates down. And that will continue to happen because when you have a lot of product sitting on a shelf, you discount it.
That's right.
And so
look at that. He's made a retail comparison with the loan application process. A very fair comparison, my friend.
And so I think as we see these applications really coming down, with inventory coming down, the disconnect between what the Fed is doing and what mortgage rates are doing will become greater. And there's just every indication that that's going to go on. We were also talking about people that are afraid of buying now because prices are not coming down as quickly, and that is a trailing indicator. It takes a while for the prices to sort of catch up to the reality of the market. And at our current rates, if a home that a year ago was $450,000, you can today get for $425 at the current rates, your payment only goes up about $80 a month.
So what do we attribute?
It's perception, though, right?
There it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking you about before the show started. Is how do you ease buyers with that perception? Because they think, oh, but it's not going down fast enough, or the interest rates are.
I think it's a media-driven narrative.
You know,
to some extent, but also they remember.
I have a group of friends that I hang out with, and we like to play board games. And in many of these board games,
You have a board game group that
Should we
I
highlight
haven't
Bert
invited
and
to?
Elena?
no, Bert does not play board games. This
Okay.
is a completely different group. Elaine and I play games together.
Okay.
But we don't talk about that much, and we can't have anybody else in the house because we tend to shout obscenities at each other. and then-
Okay, I like your
Laugh
shout.
and
Those kind of board
Smile.
games, yeah.
Yeah.
Any table flipping happen in these board games?
No, her table's way too heavy. Way too heavy. But we've been known to say really, really terrible expletives to one another and flip
Sounds
each other
fun.
off. It's great fun. We
Kind of
enjoy
game
it
Jerry
immensely.
wants to be
I
involved
want to be in part of that game.
But in this group, you can screw each other in these board games, and so oftentimes somebody to my right, Tommy, will do something that offends me, and so then I have to spend the rest of the game making him suffer. And because I got all focused on this and had an emotional reaction, I often lose the game because there are moves I could make that would move me further ahead, but I'm so focused on getting even that I don't get in first place. And that's what most people are doing with mortgages and home prices right now is they're getting really focused on an emotional reaction to something and wanting desperately to fix it as though they can turn back time and undo it. And they're missing other opportunities that if they could take a deep breath, get a really good advisor, really look at their budget and what they can afford, there's always ways to be a winner, and you're never even going to have a chance if you don't get in the game.
So I got to correct myself. It wasn't just a bottle of Ragged Branch bourbon.
No, there's a different bottle in there.
Kevin Higgins says it's first batch Ragged Branch
very
bourbon.
high.
So that is the best of the best. And he says, I said goodbye to this bottle yesterday. It's heading to Scott Morris. He said, I blame Kevin Yancey for roping me to this bet. Kevin Yancey says, I'll find one to help you replace it, Kevin Higgins. Jared, your brother-in-law, says, please, dear God, send your in-laws to my house. Lee Elberson. Jared is watching in Louisiana.
Yeah, Lafayette.
8 Hats is a fantastic business and brand to support. Jared does a tremendous job there. This is what I'm concerned about, and I'll throw it to you, gentlemen. I'm concerned that this, I guess you call it a little bit of a housing crisis. This is primary my concern, Quinton, is the inventory shortage seems to be deepening and expediting. The small builder is in a very precarious position, and the developer and big box builder seems to be doing a timeout. So this inventory shortage is snowballing.
Can I ask a question? Is inventory shortage measured as the number of available properties divided by the number of applications or interest about? How do you measure that exactly?
Inventory is always measured by what we call an absorption rate.
Okay.
And so the number of houses that are available for sale based on the number of predicted sales in a certain time frame.
Boy, it's probably an asterisk next to that predicted
And so,
part.
it's like measuring things in, I don't know, cc's per deciliter. It really depends on what the diluent is and how much of it that makes a difference. So if you look right now, inventory is actually ticking up because remember, mortgage rates and mortgage applications down by 40%, fewer sales. You're seeing days on market begin to climb, and I think we're going to continue seeing that for the next 75 days at least, leading into spring. And as that continues to happen, the inventory, which is that supply and demand equation of absorption rate, is going to go up because you're going to have more houses come on than sell. And it's going to take them longer to sell. So one house is now worth more in that inventory and that weeks of supply.
So you're not concerned of an inventory shortage?
I am concerned about an inventory shortage. I'm only moderately more concerned than I've been for the last decade.
Which has been fairly concerned.
Which has been fairly concerned. Yes.
Yeah. And
it's hard to get up past 10 on a dial of 1 to 10. You know.
Very well said. So he's adding context there. So the concern you have though, is it the small builder that seems to be in a very difficult position right now?
I feel like you were leading into this whole discussion. I felt like you brought up like 6 things at once.
I did.
And so inventory is going to start going up because we're seeing purchases slow down. We do have a lot of rental housing coming online, at least in our local area, over the next 9 months. That will also help with inventory because more doors, more places for more people. That's sort of what we need. We have far fewer small builders than we had pre-crash.
That's right.
From the time of great unpleasantness because they just couldn't survive. And then I think you're going to see a big pause and we had an uptick. We've had more applications for new home starts in the last year than we did in the year after the crash. That's good. But the time frame from now to when those come online is going to be harder because prices are still high, carrying costs are still high for developers. And I think that limits greatly what the smaller developers can do because that carrying cost and having that cash just is that margin is so much tighter for them.
Very well said.
Can I ask another definition question? What do you define as a small builder? Number of properties per year? Like what quantity?
So
determine that?
I would
local
even,
guys,
Southern Homes,
Dominion Custom Homes,
Gibson
Homes.
Anybody that's not one of the big boys is
Okay.
a small developer.
How many developments do they put together? Like how many properties do they develop in an average year?
I mean, Southern does a lot.
There's some metric by which they would cross
There's
over that
not.
first? Okay.
There's not. And part of that is because
Part
of that is because of how the process works. And so if you start everything you're seeing come online in the next year got started in 2019. Mm-hmm. And so to try and say what they did each year is maybe they started 6 projects and now this year 2 are coming on and the year after that 2 more on. Because a lot of times they're purchasing land depending on it taking a while to get through zoning and they want it to wait 2 or 3 years for this mess to go away. And so a lot of the housing starts, when we say a housing start, that's a little deceptive because that has no dirt move, no shovel or anything else. It means a permit was filed, a request for a permit. So those permits are out there, but you just got people putting on tennis shoes. Nobody has fired the starting gun.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great description right there.
Yeah.
That's a very good description.
So why I like asking Quinton question. He always has that physicist mind. He can always quantify things, and he's very good at describing them.
The beautiful and talented Alex Elberson watching the program right now. This is
Alex!
the better 7/8, as Keith likes to say, of Lee.
Oh, she definitely is, and she gets
Elberson
more
right
gifts
now?
from QB than I do. Every time he comes over, he has a gift for Alex. I'm like, hey, what do I get? And I get a hug, which is it's fine.
It's good.
Fine.
You appreciate the hug.
Did you
Burping.
did you like the last gift that she got?
What was the last gift? No secrets here. Suzanne Reel, welcome to the show. We love you, Suzanne. Scott Morris, hello.
You mean the candle to put shame to all other candles, the bonfire candle?
Oh, no. There was one after that. Remember the day we had to move furniture and you were conveniently tied up?
Yeah, Quinton loaned us his Rivian truck to help Tyler, who is our adoptee Charlottesvillian, get into his house.
Wait, you have an adoptee Charlottesvillian?
He moved here from Washington, D.C., and he's still basically he's a college kid. He doesn't have real furniture.
Lives at your house?
No. He's got his own apartment, but he moved in.
He's independent, he's got a good job, and he's single, so anybody watching.
Wow, matchmaking here on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Okay.
Matchmaking with Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Message Lee separately. He's got photos and a little CV.
I'm going to be his dating. Actually, that's fair. Yes, if you want to be set up with Tyler, let me know. He's going to be so.
You could be your own service.
He might be watching right now. He's going to be mortified that we're talking about. So let's stop.
We'll call you Linder.
Tyler, if you're watching, let us know. Jump in the feed. We're happy to connect you with the date this Friday night at Alley Light over cocktails, if you'd like. This question has come in, and it's a reference from a previous show. Alex says we're turning him into an adult, Lee.
Yes.
We're turning him into an adult. Alex is Lee's better half. This question's from Grayson.
Alex, aren't you tired after having to do that with him? And now you're taking on another. What is this need for projects?
Hey, this project's almost done, okay? or it's at the point where she's not going to see any more progress. I should say it's not done.
Bullshit.
I would say you can't teach an old dog new tricks at this point.
That's well played. Well played, gentlemen.
Grayson has said in a previous show, Keith referenced the bright economist. I'll add some context. Her name is Dr. Lisa Sturdivant. And Keith referenced that housing is going to move to a halt potentially over the holidays into Q1. What does Mr. Beckham think of those comments?
I think I can totally see that. And frankly, I'm looking forward to a break. I would be okay if we slowed down for the holidays. And here locally, that is what we used to do. There were very few sales, and they were usually the ones that people just had to have closed before the new year for tax purposes or some other reason like that. And then you had sort of a lead into spring where most of the moving in the market happened. And so I think you're going to see that come back. And I know that feels like a dramatic change, but it's really sort of a return to seasonality that we're all expecting. I think it's going to feel more impactful because we're not going to have a sudden rebound in inventory. It's just so low. It's just so very low. So I would expect us to sell somewhere across the country in the range of about 4.6 million homes in 23, which is dialing back the volume of sales or the number of transactions to 2018 levels.
Multiple folks are highlighting the fact that you have a Rivian.
I do have a Rivian.
Okay. We know, and if you watch the show or this network of any capacity, you know Quinton Beckham is a automobile or vehicle man.
And EV. He's an EV guy.
He's an EV guy.
He's on his last 3 vehicles are EVs.
The last
5, but
the last chitter chatter was an Audi of some kind. Is that in the garage?
Oh no! There was a Tesla in between the Audi.
Tesla Model S Plaid. Then there was an Audi e-tron RS, e-tron GT, and then before that was the Porsche.
No.
That was a loaner.
That was a loaner.
Okay.
Before that was the regular Audi e-tron, of which I had 3.
That's not bad. I would drive this.
I have driven a few of his vehicles, and I would drive any of his vehicles.
The word on the street is the Rivian, when going from entrance ramp onto the 64 corridor, has some giddy up. Does it not?
We can neither confirm nor deny
Does
those
it have
allegations.
some giddy up
No,
over there?
It's not as fast as my other cars.
Well, I mean, it's not supposed to be.
No,
but
It's
not a slouch either.
I would guarantee. I would bet money it's faster than pretty much any car parked in that garage.
No, but he highlights it to his other cars.
Yeah.
Is what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be in the conversation of the sports cars you've previously driven.
The Tesla was scary fast. Nobody needs a car that
The
goes
Tesla
that fast.
Model S Plaid is the fastest production vehicle ever produced.
Yeah.
Faster than Lamborghini, faster than everything. So everything you buy after that would be slower, most likely.
What is the favorite you've had?
What is my favorite?
Yeah,
Well,
of
right
all
now
of
it's the Rivian. We'll see what it is in 6 months. But
Well, is it? It's beat the Tesla as a favorite.
the amount of practicality
Okay.
in it, and
Okay.
prior to my electric vehicle adventures, I always drove SUVs and bigger cars. So it feels good to be back in a bigger car that has a lot more practical uses for it, like
More room,
like
higher
moving
up.
a sofa.
Yeah.
Thank you again for that.
Easier to get in.
So you know what they didn't tell me was that one, he was suspiciously busy with something, non-physical, like monitoring a test.
I'm always busy when they're like, "Can you help us move?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm busy that day." You haven't even told us what
Moving
day
is
it
the
is.
worst. Moving
and
is
then,
the worst.
and then it rained. And the other thing that Alex left out, because she's smarter than the rest of us, is that Tyler's apartment is a 4th floor walk-up.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah, but that's something you want to tell them once you get there. If we would have told you that ahead of time,
Oh,
you would have been busy too.
Oh, no, I would have driven. I just wouldn't have even offered to help lift it because, me helping carry a sofa up 4 floors, no.
By the way, Tyler has a present for you. I was over there last night. He bought you something.
John-
He didn't have to do that.
John Blair watching the program in Stanton. We'll reel him in here. Elena Mangione, you should be piping in Tracy Chapman in the background right now. Elena Mangione, we love when you watch the show. We love everything about you, Elena. All right, so this one is for Lee. Often when Lee is on the program from Kelsey, he highlights elements of the economy. What does Lee think is going to happen in 2023 with our local economy? It's a good question.
Well, as Jerry is frequently points out, I'm usually
Here comes the bear.
I'm very bearish.
Here comes the bear.
I think that we're headed for a grim Q1 2023. I think
Okay,
we're
explain
gonna see-
why.
Well, I was going to ask Quinton what he thinks the housing market is going to do to the economy as a whole.
All the things that the economy has done to the housing market, and it's going to giggle while it does that.
What does that mean?
I mean that there a huge portion of our there are 2 things that power our economy in huge proportion, and
Locally or nationally?
nationally
Okay.
and locally.
Yeah.
And one is the ability of the middle class to be consumers. So service industry and retail powers 60% of our economy. And so anytime you do something that really puts the thumb screws to the middle class, the economy slows down in ways that are very dramatic. And much like housing prices, we don't feel those effects right away, but we begin to feel them, and you'll see them in inventory piling up in stores. If you want to have a good metaphor for what's going on with the housing market, just
Look
go
at
to
Target.
Go to Target.
Yeah.
you
Not a good scene in Target right now.
So I don't believe we've seen the bottom of our economic distress yet. I don't think we were quite scraping the bottom of the barrel. I think we got some ways to go, and I wouldn't expect things to be rosy until 2024.
Your thoughts? We'll stick local.
Local.
She specifically asked local.
Well, I think in some ways Charlottesville is not entirely shielded from.
A bit insulated.
I would say insulated is probably a good word, because insulation, especially for heat, just means that it delays the effect, right? So we are going to feel the effect, but it's going to be later than expected, and it might be in some diminished capacity. So are we going to see, retail stores continue to fail? Small mom and pop shops continue to fail in 2023? Yes. Will they fail at a rate as high as they've been in 2021 and 2022?
And then you got to shoot it straight.
I don't think, no, I'm actually thinking through it. I don't think so. And I think nobody has a crystal ball. So I think Q1 and Q2 will be difficult in 2023 for small businesses. But I'm optimistic that we won't see as many small businesses close.
Okay,
the later part.
I'll try a different approach to this question.
Okay.
Here's the different approach.
I don't want to. I also don't like. I am fine being a bear for the nationwide economy. I don't like being a bear locally.
Different approach.
Okay.
You are undoubtedly a stakeholder in the Community Investment Collaborative,
100%.
the CIC.
Yep.
What is the counsel being offered to Community Investment Collaborative? How would you describe? Are they students? Are they members? How do you characterize
We
them?
call them, like, if you attend the workshop, it's participants.
Participants.
But yes.
CIC participants entering now or currently in CIC, what is the counsel that they are receiving from stakeholders like you and friend of the program, Stephen Davis? I believe Alex Erpe is on the board in some capacity.
Yeah,
at CIC.
Alex, he's incoming board chair. So,
Yeah.
I think so. I do my best to attend a workshop, and I went to the workshop last Tuesday and talked with the participants. And I think there's many questions about participants making sure to diversify their products and saying, I don't think I can support my business just in a retail front or just in the farmer's market. What can I do to make sure to sell my products online? And as we know, it's very difficult to make to build a business, to build an e-commerce business online. You have to, you need to market, you need to do things much differently than you do in the farmer's market, which a lot of times happens by word of mouth, and those interactions happen organically. And so we have been encouraging businesses to leverage all the resources at CIC and engage in as many community events as possible, because my hope is that what we've seen happen to some of the smaller retail shops is that the community members in Charlottesville will say, I want to support a small business instead of buying things online. I'm not immune to this. I realized that we bought our cat food on Amazon. It was on Amazon Subscribe and Save, and I stopped by Animal Connections in Ix and thought, why am I, I'm paying, probably saving $2. Why am I not just going and supporting a small business? And so I think CIC is doing a good job of reaching out to community members and saying support small businesses, but small businesses also need to meet the community members halfway and say, what is Amazon giving you that we can't, and what is our extra value? And that value is knowing your pet, knowing your customer, and having that strong engagement with them. So it's customer engagement, I guess, is a long answer to say customer engagement. You come into my shop, Jerry, how's it going? Love to hear about your son. Tell me what your education plans are for me. I want to get to know you as a person because I care about you. You live in our community. Anyway, that's my answer.
I love that. I'm going to throw this to Quinton Beckham. Go ahead, Quinton.
And I think small businesses locally have an advantage in that you can see what's coming and you can be nimble. So provided that you've got some room to move the needle, you can reduce the square footage that you're paying for. You can change how you're marketing products. You can add things that, because your bottom line isn't the size of Montana, can make an actual real difference and a percentage rate that makes it survivable. I think there's a lot less competition in small businesses because we've had so many go out of business in the last 2 years. So if you're out there and you own a small business and you're operating right now, just know that there is a lot of opportunity for you to garner market share, to make changes for efficiency, and do them in a way that's not going to take you a year. I think it was yesterday at 3 p.m. that all the Twitter employees had to decide if they were
5
leaving
p.m.
or not.
yesterday, the
5
deadline.
p.m. was the deadline.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to happen with a company of that size to deal with economic pressures takes months and weeks and tragedy to go through, whereas everybody that's listening that owns a small business has real opportunity to make changes in a way that are seamless, fast, and really effective, and then if they don't work, do something else.
I like it. I like it. You want to offer a perspective here?
No, I 100% agree with Quinton. We've talked about this many times. I think that is one of the benefits of being a small business owner, is that you determine the direction of the company. And yeah, you don't have a board to go through. You don't have a slow-moving machine like you do as you get to a large company, 100 employees or more. You can't just turn the wheel and say, we're going to offer a new product line next week. It has to go through years of development. And so I think being nimble and listening, talking with your talking with your customers is so important, because what you think you're delivering as a business owner, I think many times I'm like, oh, this is our product, our service is exactly this in my head. And I talk to our customers and they're like, no, this is how I perceive it. And I think, wow, we must be doing something wrong, because it is not coming across how we thought it was going to come across. And so you only get that when you get that feedback. So talk to your customers, listen to what they want. And my best piece of advice is, whenever I talk with a customer, my last question is, imagine I handed you the keys I gave you the keys to Clayborne and you were CEO. What would you do to make our company better? And what it does is it removes any guilt of saying like, hey, we think it's a great company. How would you make it better from your perspective? And you get real insight from that.
So this really gets me excited. This is primarily what I do each day. This is the bulk of my time, is consulting with small businesses. You bring up Animal Connection. Mm-hmm. She's been a client for
Patty, right?
Patty Zeller,
Yep.
Almost 8 years.
She's great.
And I think what Patty Zeller at Animal Connection has done is omni-experiential retail. And omni-experiential retail is a service-based business that's just not associated with moving product from shelves. You can go into Animal Connection and you can wash your dog. You can go into Animal Connection and you can get your animals groomed. You can go into Animal Connection and you can get knowledge on the product that's being sold on the shelves. You can go into Animal Connection and you can get photography with your animals. They have cookouts at Animal Connection.
She had an SPCA event on Saturday.
Fundraisers for nonprofits at Animal
she did
Connection.
a homeless event on Wednesday, right?
Exactly. So what she does is she provides services not associated with Amazon. Anyone can buy a product online, but you can't get your dog groomed on Amazon. You can't get your dog photographed on Amazon. And I would say that's paramount for the small business owner to survive in 2023, is to create omni-experiential retail. Happy Cook is a great example of this. You go into the Happy Cook, you can have a cooking lesson, and you can use the products that are for sale in the store and figure out whether you like them. And if you like them at the cooking lesson, you can buy them. Can't do that on Amazon. Those are the ones that survive, and I agree, Quinton, I'm going to throw this to you, and more comments are coming in on real estate, which we'll get back to. I agree that today's consumer, today's retailer, today's small business in 2023, unfortunately is going to have less competition locally, which could give them an opportunity to gain share. And I think that very much could be the case for real estate and agents going into 2023.
Of course.
So I'll throw that to you anywhere you want to go. What's your take on how 2023 is going to play out, QB?
I think it's going to be hard. I don't think anybody's going to walk around loving it. We still have not seen unemployment tick up, and you will know that we have not reached the bottom of the barrel, because the bottom of the barrel will be when that starts to really tick up, and it's going to. Everything that we're seeing right now, just the witch's brew of supply chain issues, war in Ukraine, and economic stuff, is leading in that direction. So things are going to be harder, and here locally, both as small businesses and residents, you can see it coming and you can do things to fix it. You can manage your personal expenses. You can, if you're in a small business that's like restaurant or retail, remember that every square foot you need to treat just like you were putting a tenant in it. And are you getting all your money back out of that lease? Because that's one of the things that is a big cost that you can't get out of. Some of the shops that I walk through that are small business shops, they have a lot of floor space with nothing in it, and I would just challenge them to find things that can make them revenue out of that floor space. If you've been in really good, busy restaurants, you're sitting New York style, close to your neighbors and your friends there, and also do things that really highlight your connections to the community. We have a very generous community here, and many of our small business owners give back and partner with community events. And I think that's a really good thing to highlight, to remind folks that are local that they're not just buying cat food, getting a good meal, or a gift. They're also reinvesting in their community, and it will come back around.
Yeah.
Very well said. Very well said. There's been an educational question on the feed for Lee Elberson, which we will get to in a matter of moments. I want to follow up with Quinton over there. Do you see a you see a shrinkage in agents in 2023, Quinton? Active agents?
I would like to use a word other than shrinkage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of a trigger word for me, but
Well, I guess just, again, definition question. You're talking about a decrease in
Yeah.
the number of independent agents? Is that what you're...
Well, independent is a
a
decrease,
decrease in the number of
realtors.
licensees.
Yeah,
call it.
licensees.
all right.
I don't see how there cannot be.
Right.
And I think we're already starting to see some of that happen as brokers across town. There's just, last time I checked, there were 62,517 licensees in the Commonwealth.
How much was that?
63,517 licensees in the Commonwealth. I might be a little bit off on that number because it's
Dang.
been a while.
That's a lot.
And there were 34,000 homes for sale 2 months ago. Now, granted,
a
not
great
all of
stat.
these people are actively selling. They're brokers, they're managers, or maybe they're retired, some of them. They're educators. There's a variety of ways to use a license that don't include buying and selling homes. But it's just not enough to support people. So I could see, as with any industry, the pace picked up, the volumes went up, we gained licensees. Pace is going to slow down, the volume's going to go down, we're going to lose licensees. And much like the small businesses we were just talking about, if you're an individual agent working on your own in a brokerage, or if you're running a team of agents, just like we were talking about, there are many, many ways for you to secure the market share that you've always had and pick up more.
I think
So-
you're in a good position. And why I think you're in a good position, you were super smart with this, and I'm giving you genuine props here. The Keller Williams Alliance brand is a known brand. I think
We try to be.
Yeah, KWA is a global brand. And you also did a really good job of vertically integrated the business with property management, with title, and a number of other divisions that are in this umbrella company. And I think the ones that may be in a tougher spot, and just this is coming from me, the ones that might be in a tougher spot perhaps are the ones associated with brands or firms that don't have the recognition that a KWA may have.
And I think what's important to us as a brokerage is to set a stage whereupon agents can perform successfully and fully without having to worry about lights, curtains, and sound system. And if you're out there on your own and you're having to do all that other work, it takes away from your performance with your clients. We are fortunate in that we have so many really incredibly good agents that are smart, talented, and care deeply about the clients that they serve, and they remember that. And I think Katie Pearl's one of them that's watching, and
She's
there's
watching.
Courtney Dickinson, there's Tara Savage, and they have a history in the community, and they're really invested in the community, and they're raising their families in the community, and they know they're going to see their clients over and over and over, and they do their damnedest to take care of them. It is our job as a brokerage to provide all of the supporting services that let them do that 100% of the time, as opposed to only 50% of the time because they're worried about everything else.
Sarah Hill Buchensky, she's Howard Hanna agent. She's talented. She says same with lenders, what you're saying.
Same with lenders.
There's a lot of lenders who have gotten into the business in the last couple years who are in real big trouble right now.
Well, I think,
Her husband, First Heritage Mortgage.
you asked what is housing going to do to the economy and what is the economy going to do to the housing. These are all interrelated things. And we talk a lot about how new construction, housing starts, and housing sales really power a lot of local economic growth. And you're seeing all of that slow down. And so it's going to have all of those consequences for all of this sort of stuff. Sarah's completely right. And I think mortgage brokers, agents, title companies, real estate attorneys, all of these services really have to do all the same things we were just talking about with the local retail, with local restaurants and local small businesses. You have to really look at what your return is, because you no longer have all this money to throw around, and what is valuable to your consumer, what's valuable to your business in its primary value statement, and really focus in on those things. If everybody out there that is a small business owner just keeps the market share they had last year for the next 6 months, they're going to be sitting pretty when this all turns around, because it is cyclical and it will all turn around.
Lee Elberson, I want your take on this. Jason
Can I ask you
watching.
a question real quick about the lenders? So these small lenders, they don't own most of the loans for a long period of time. Do they package them and sell them after?
Lenders are liaisons.
Okay.
They're brokers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're brokering the mortgage, and we have insurance brokers as well. Also, business is going to be affected by this.
Home inspectors infected by this.
Home inspectors,
Big time.
Some Class A and B contractors. There's a lot of things that are going on, but the mortgage broker or the insurance broker gets your information and feeds it into a system that gives you 1,000 options, and then they help narrow down. Well, this is impossible. These are possible, and what's the order of priority? Much in the same way we get what they need for a house, and we start pulling up houses that match. So you have insurance brokers that are doing the same thing. You have mortgage brokers that are doing the same thing. And that ability to really tap into a wide array of potential services ends up giving the best result for the client, because they're not, if you go to Allstate, you only get an Allstate quote.
Right.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Allstate,
You're
but
not
it's
throwing
just an
shade.
example.
Yeah.
Whereas mortgage brokers, insurance brokers, real estate agents, we're looking at a wide variety of options to see what best meets your need based on the priorities that you give us.
Daniel Pettit, Real Estate 3's Mustache Dan Pettit. Quinton is a polished broker. He is a great asset to the community. He's given you some props over here.
Thank
you. Maggie Gunnels of the Gunnels Group watching the program. Hello, Maggie, and good morning. He's highlighting this, and this is what he's highlighting. Outside of government contracting in the Commonwealth of Virginia, real estate is the second most influential driver of GDP in Virginia. And that's a stat. That's fact. That's a stat. Government contracting is number one. Real estate is two. Real estate undoubtedly is, I think this is fair, in the eye of the storm right now. I think that's fair right now. I mean, you got Fed Chair Powell saying he would like to soften this industry in multiple meetings. I agree with what you said, that this area is somewhat insulated. I'm very curious to see how inflation could potentially drive wealthy individuals from larger markets like we saw from COVID and continue to send them here, and how that could potentially protect Charlottesville and Central Virginia even more real estate-wise. But my antennas are up right now, Quinton.
And I think what you're seeing in real estate markets, so we talk a lot about, Lisa Sturdivant was sharing data about increasing inventory, increasing days on market, prices being not bad but less strong. They're no longer the Incredible Hulk, which we still haven't decided what we are yet.
Yeah, we'll get.
Judah and I have been trading
Judah's
some
input.
ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. I was leaning towards Homer and Marge Simpson, but he told me that he disqualified them because they don't have any superpowers. So I think all of the things we're seeing now about price reductions, about inventory changes, we're already lower priced than we were a week ago because that data is old. It's rear view mirror data, and if you are in the driver's seat looking out ahead, prices are already softer. Nobody's losing their shirt, but prices are already softer. Inventory is already going to grow. Days on market is growing, and we can all see that actively, even though I can't put it together in a white paper for you in a way that is statistically significant and provable with a 95% confidence interval. I'm still right. And most people can feel it, but it's going to take time for it to really settle in and become the norm and the expectation.
What's the, and you jump in here. Anytime you want to jump in, something's tickling your fancy, just jump in. What's the concern you have take from a real estate or realtor standpoint? The ones that are fresher to the game, perhaps the younger ones, the ones on the older age of the spectrum, ones associated with with firms that don't have the name recognition or institutional brand legacy, like a KWA. What worries you here?
Are we talking about real estate agents individually?
Yeah.
Newer ones are probably more likely to first ones to bail. Like that's like any other industry, right?
I don't know that that's true. I think the agents that I see succeed are always the ones that know their relationship and their ability to draw a crowd are important, but that's not what gives them staying power. And so I think we have too many folks, clients and agents both, that watch television shows about real estate and believe that that's the real world.
Josh
and
Altman?
It's a television show.
Meant to
it's
drive
not
ratings.
like that. They can be fun and interesting to watch, but it's
They
a
are.
television show.
Yeah.
So you do need to have the ability to connect with people. You do need to have a value statement. Why am I any different than anybody else, and why am I worth what I pay for, what you pay for me? And you need to be able to express that, because the vast majority of agents in the Commonwealth are worth what they're paid, and they do have a really good value statement, and we need to be able to get your attention and outline it in a way that is understandable, and then live up to it. And then you have to do that over and over and over. You don't want me to be your agent because you're going to move to Charlottesville and we're going to become best friends and I'm going to show you all the best restaurants. You want me to be your agent because every time you have a real estate transaction, you're going to get the same great service as the first time we met. Does that mean that we can become friends and do some stuff together later? Maybe. I don't know. I have a lot of friends. I'll put names at the bottom of the list, and if people fall off the top, we can talk about it. But you're not hiring me to be your friend. You are hiring me to walk you through a very complicated transaction, keeping all your priorities in mind. And in a real estate transaction, your realtor is the only person with a legal fiduciary to keep your best interests at top of mind, even ahead of my own. We have the same fiduciary to our clients, as does an attorney. That is the only person in the whole transaction that has that. That doesn't mean the other people are bad, but you immediately get somebody with skill and experience that has done something hundreds of times that you might only do twice, 3, 4, 5 times in your life, who even has to do things that are poor for them sometimes, or give you real advice. I can't tell you how many people I've said, don't sell your home right now. This is not good timing, and maybe you should look at fixing up or adding on, because the rates are really great for that and the prices are super high and you've got so much equity and you're still got a young family. Make the home you're in better, which is often true. And I'm surrounded by agents both in and out of my brokerage who will give that same best advice, and that's what you're hiring us for. That one commission that is earned on the transaction is a single premium for 5 years of service.
That advice is probably a lot easier the bigger your portfolio is.
Oh, no doubt.
If you're an agent
And the
getting
most
started,
deals
and
you do.
you have one, if you have 1 or 2 on your plate, yeah, I think in principle that argument, I think it's a lot easier to stomach. You just don't. It probably doesn't. I mean, in reality, it just doesn't matter to you. So it's a lot easier for you to trust your conscience. Would you agree with that?
But we're talking about what agents are going to survive, and it's the ones that can stomach it and can tell the truth all the time. And in the end, when you do the right things, the money follows.
What do you do? Okay, so a follow-up question. Are you going to see a lot? How many agents in Carr?
I don't know off the top of my head. I want to
1,000
say
plus?
1,200, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's like 1,200, right? We're all in agreement here. We're going to see a lot less deals. What's the agent going to do to supplement income when a lot less deals are happening? And what's the rule of thumb? Like 10% of the agents do like 75% of the business? Isn't that generally a rough
That's
statistic?
probably a fair
Yeah.
estimation.
Think about that, Lee.
But not every person has a real estate license and practices as a realtor
Sure.
to live that way.
I've called them
Yeah, I was
hop-
going to ask. Just give me a ballpark. What percentage of realtors have a other hustle, like a side gig, or maybe real estate is their side gig?
a lot.
Of the 1,200, what percentage do you think?
I don't know that I know the percentage off the top of my head.
Okay.
But we
What
know
I-
it's a lot.
What I will tell you is we have in our brokerage and in our larger franchise, we have an entire track on turning income into actual wealth, because people forget that they're the same thing. And when I say wealth, I don't mean like multimillionaire wealth, but how do you take a really good year in real estate and use it to create an investment property that then helps supplement for the slow times so that you can be a better realtor to your clients? And what do you do with the extra money that you make? And in small businesses, there's just a real tendency to be really bad at budgeting and being a business person. And so a lot of that process has to happen immediately and really be stuck to even more carefully when things are really good, because that's what will carry you through when things are not so good, and keep your value statement secure. And so if you entered real estate 3 years ago, if you entered being a loan officer 3 years ago, if you started selling insurance 3 years ago, and you just were rolling in it and buying new electric vehicles every 6 months, or doing something insane like, buying a house that needs a new foundation, or getting married, or other dumb things people do, and and you thought that that's what your life was going to be for the next 10 years, and you lived exactly at the edge of your means, you're going to be in a bad spot. Yeah. And so all the things that I want agents to do to be secure, and that we offer training on, and that I want to support them on, and we help them make P&Ls and budgets, and what is your value statement, because I don't want to hand you one. I want to know what you really offer, and let's work on that. All of that stuff is the same way middle class survive inflation. It's the same way they survive interest rates. You have a budget, you stick to the budget, you have a reserve, you stick to keeping that reserve, you avoid impulsiveness, and you make sure that when you're spending money, it is either for a necessity or for something that gives you a return on that money. And that's true no matter where you're at, whether you're a tutor, whether you're doing marketing, it doesn't matter. That's true wherever you're at.
I'll say, first of all, that's a great program to have for your agents to help them turn a good year into long-term sustainability. That's unique to you. Small business owners, I can tell you from experience and having spoken with hundreds of small businesses, there's a rationale to why a good year doesn't turn into long-term wealth. Because as a small business owner, if Clayborne has a bad year, guess who the last person to get paid is? I mean, many years where I'm like, God, 3 employees made more than I did this year. And when I have a good year, I know that thought is, you know what, I deserve to treat myself to something nice. I'm gonna, or at the very least, I'm gonna pay off some of this credit card, or I'm gonna do this, and you do it impulsively. And so having an organization that helps you resist that impulse to do that is great. How the small agents, that's why my argument is the people who haven't been in it long, not only do they not have that training, they probably also don't have the resilience to stay in that long, right? This is why most businesses fail in the first
80% of businesses fail in the first 3 years.
First 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then those that survive, another 50% fail in the next 2 years. And so probably the same thing, I would be surprised that the same thing doesn't hold for agents, right? It's a very similar small business mentality that you have to overcome.
Can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, and having the structure to be able to train your employees to
it's
for
invaluable.
Long-term wealth is great.
And even some of the best agents, we focus so much on.
That's why I think the established brands like yours are the ones that are going to gain the
market
share and going to do well. I sincerely mean this.
But in part, having that is extremely important.
And I'm not trying to throw shade at the other ones, but the systems aren't in place or the processes are not in place like you guys have done. And I've seen it firsthand with some of the guys or team members on your team here, guys and gals. Some of the smaller brokerages where maybe the split's a little bit different are not offering this kind of what do you call this? Knowledge base.
It's
education.
Retirement planning, investment tracking, all that goes into it.
A lot of small businesses, and real estate is one of these. When you stop working, money stops coming. So
time in, money out, sort of thing. Yeah.
So
this is where you're going to highlight the rental property, the investment property.
So what we want to do is we want you to understand that path that money takes, so that your entire livelihood is not dependent on your sales performance, and we start using that money to create opportunities and to create income that may not be passive, but is not dependent on your full-time work. Because at some point, you're going to get to be my age and older. You might even get to be Keith's age if you're really lucky. And
wow.
And you're going to want there to be some horizon or light at the end of the tunnel where you don't work as hard as you have to for every dollar that you make. And that requires not spending every dollar that you make while you work as hard as you do, and knowing what to do with it.
Perfect.
And
well said.
And that path of money is very important. And anybody that's out there in a small business, whether it's an agent, investment broker,
hairstylist,
Be Just,
whatever it is,
Tavola, whoever you are, that needs to be your end game. And you can't depend on selling your business to somebody to make that happen, because a lot of your business depends on you. You're the brand.
Yeah.
And so when you step out of it, it loses that value. So what are you doing with the money you're making that's going to create value and have a retirement plan for you.
I want to say this, and this is coming from like real life experience, the three of us offering this perspective here. He's diversified his business into a number of different firms. You got Clayborne, you're a part of 8 Hats right here.
I do consulting on the side. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, look at the advertising agency is how we got into small business. We launched a podcasting network and have a large rental portfolio as well. So the idea is to diversify streams that help make you through times of hardship here. Gary Palmer is highlighting this comment, and I'm curious, GP, if that's car only. He says, I checked a few months ago and saw 4,500 or so agents in our local MLS.
Yeah, that's not car only. And the MLS, you can have a designation in the MLS that's not necessarily a human.
That's right.
Because you can have DBAs. So we data share in our local MLS with Harrisonburg Association's MLS, with the Greater Augusta MLS, and through many counties with Bright. Right. And so you're going to see some overlap. So if you want to look at the actual number of licensees in an association, I would look up the membership roster for that association.
Car,
Harrisonburg. And if you want to know the actual number of licensees in a state, you can do that in a really complex way on the DPOR website.
I will say this, Gary, that we're managing the brands for a lot of folks that are a lot of businesses that are CAR members, and we're sending content to the CAR members routinely for these businesses, and we have access to the e-newsletter contacts that come with that membership, and the number is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200. And that 1,000 or 1,200, a lot of them are not actually practicing realtors. A good example, friend of the program, who I believe is coming on Monday, Woody Fincham, is an appraiser who has a realtor license.
He is a member of CAR, and
right.
And I think the numbers are not relevant. I think the thing Gary and I are both pointing out that we agree on is that there are more agents than we expect there to be business.
Right.
And I think every realtor association across the country is expecting a reduction somewhere in the 15 to 30% range.
Right. Absolutely. And he also agrees that it's about 10 to 15% that are doing the volume in real estate.
That's probably right.
Yeah, that's probably right. Lee Elberson, this question has come in. It's an educational question.
Okay.
From a father of a kindergartner. And this is a precocious kindergartner.
Okay.
This particular kindergartner is reading and performing at a 5th grade level.
Wow.
Significant. And the father is asking, and it's Mr. Yancey, the father is asking, should we be utilizing tutors because there's not the challenge currently present in a public school setting for his 5th grade daughter?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I've gotten frequently in the last few years especially is when you have an advanced student, what resources do they have? There's many charter schools around the country that are meant to feed in advanced gifted students. We don't currently have a school in Charlottesville capable of handling this. I mean, yes, I would work with an educational consultant, a tutor is probably a lot like an agent. There's a lot of different types of tutors. You want an educational consultant who can look at what the long-term goals are. At this stage, the long-term goals are going to be mostly dictated by the parents and saying what, like in 5 years or by the time they graduate high school, what is the success for the student or what's the success for them this year? So yes, I would say, I tell everybody contact Clayborne, and it's not because we take on every student. We refer out probably about 20% of the business. We are in touch with most of the major players in Charlottesville, and we don't want to or need to take all of the business in Charlottesville. And so, yeah, I think contacting a firm like Clayborne's is a great first step because you can have somebody one-to-one help like this students really reach their maximum potential. And then if you have a tutor working with them, many times I've been asked to write letters on behalf of the student to the school system to say, this is what I think justifies the student skipping a grade or the student moving into this specialized program. Because they do have specialized programs at the schools. They just are very limited and you have to be at the right school for them. So that would be my advice.
Very good answer right there.
Yeah.
from Lee Elberson, per usual.
Thanks. I have a trivia question for Quinton, which I don't know the answer to, but I know you do. When did MLS start?
Oh gosh,
100 years ago or something? I don't know.
over 100 years ago.
Over 100 years ago.
What we currently call the MLS, which is just an offspring of the broker cooperation. I'm having a hard time saying that word.
Cooperation, yeah.
Thank you. Hang on. Hold on.
Have some more of that coffee, yeah. Gets things going.
Which was the agreement between realtors way back in time in Chicago that I wouldn't only let my buyers buy listings from my firm, I would help them buy listings from your firm too.
So before that, it was okay.
Sprang into.
I got that now. I got that for you on a quick Google search. Quinton, you're right.
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
1907.
The practice was common in the 1880s and 1890s. Shortly after the end of the 19th century, the term multiple listing was in use. It is mentioned as an activity of boards of realtors as early as 1907. You did some research on that. In the 1920s, multiple listing had become widely accepted. Been around in a significant period of time. It's evolved. I mean, at one point it was a book that you guys carried around in a very tight, safe.
They were faxing and dog-earing and labeling and tabbing and.
So before that, when you would go to a person or an agency, it was only to get access to listings that they had like ownership of or had made some sort of agreement with?
Well, I mean, before there was ways to travel data around in nice little packets, you kind of shopped for it in the same way you might.
A catalog.
Yeah.
I mean, it was you literally did it with a book.
Think of how recently you can buy a car online.
Yeah.
How long has it been? I mean, I bought a Rivian online.
You did? Did you test drive it?
Yes.
Okay, so you
Not
went...
the one I bought.
Okay.
I did read something. I think the majority of Rivian owners buy them sight unseen. They don't test drive them.
I mean,
Correct,
did we
crazy.
ever anticipate that we would be able to buy a car in a vending machine like Carvana? Think about that.
Or did you ever expect that you wouldn't go to a lot where the actual physical car you're going to buy is? Mm-hmm. And now it's moving. And so, MLS is sort of the same thing. It's just ways to share the data faster in a broader way, in a way that can be tracked, that helps us better honor our commitment to fair housing and equitable housing. It's a good thing.
It's great. We haven't been doing trivia. I mean, we used to do trivia a bunch on this show.
I'm actually fascinated with the cover on your laptop. I want to touch your laptop.
Alcantara.
Yeah,
it's very.
Ray Cadell will get to this comment in a moment. Sarah Hill Buchensky highlights Dr. Dawn Anderson as a potential solution for Kevin's daughter. I can vouch for Dr. Dawn Anderson. She was a tenant of ours for 2 years, and I firsthand saw the positive experiences coming in and out of her office. Ray says to Quinton, I go back to meetings back in the day over breakfast with other agents where we would share flyers that had to be made by an actual printer because there was no desktop publishing, and that's how we sold real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Going to Tip Top with flyers that were done at third-party companies, printers, taking those flyers from third-party companies to a breakfast setting and trying to showcase and promote and market properties then. That's how it was done at one time. That's crazy, right? Blows your mind.
What's the future of real estate hold? At some point, are there not going to be agents? Or are you just going to? Is everything going to be just a
we don't want.
interfacing?
I'm sure Quinton doesn't want to hear that.
Well, people ask me the same thing with tutoring. At some point, our tutor is going to be obsolete, and I say no. In the industry, there's a personal touch, and maybe it's not a binary thing, right? Is there some percentage of it that is going to eliminate?
I think with things like healthcare and education and really deeply personal transactions, whether they're financial or otherwise, there's a human element that always provides a value to it that's going to be hard to duplicate.
I agree with that. Lee, I can see a little doubting over there by Lee Elberson. You're giving the doubting energy that I'm reading and feeling right now.
No, I'm not. I think Quinton is saying this, I think it's not a binary thing. I think more and more
Correct.
people are going
It's
to
not either
depend
or.
on some sort of platform. Some percentage of the population is going to want to depend on a platform, and they're going to say, I don't want to interact with a human.
Yeah.
But that's a small percentage, maybe, arguably.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think we saw that with the Zestimates and I can say this, I don't want to get you in trouble here. I'm not an agent over here. Okay, we saw this with Zestimates and say Redfin. That concept struggled mightily to the point where Zillow has closed a division associated with this.
So I want to drag back from that a little bit and just remind everybody that there's white lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics.
Okay.
And the idea that statistics tell you the whole story is really false.
I think I'm going to give you props for that.
You know, I can show you data that we pull that's public information from online that tells you 3 houses in a row are worth the same thing. What you need a human for is to know
Eye test.
Context.
who owns a lawnmower, who took care of the
Conditions.
house,
Yeah.
you know, which one flooded when the lake overflowed, and was it fixed and was it fixed well? And there's things that lend themselves to non-human interactions online that are quite agreeable. And there's just a lot of things that are not those things. And they're mostly the things that are central to our lives and our happiness. You know, if you want to let a robot that learned from AI do your appendectomy, there's options for that. On the other hand, how do you feel about that? And what are the questions you have that it's not going to answer? And if you've tried to find complicated questions online, or did you ever talk to Siri or Google or Alexa, and you want to know a really specific thing and it keeps giving you a dumb answer?
Very weak AI, yeah.
It's you know, we're not in a place with AI or computer systems where humans can be removed. Will we be there someday? Sure, not in my lifetime, but
Some people might argue whether or not that's true. I tend to think the same as you, that AI is far from being able to provide context. I would say everything that you talked about in terms of expertise has to do with context. So when somebody says, hey, I can go to Khan Academy and learn everything that your SAT program tells me, I say, no. You can, if you're asking whether the content modules are available there and given an infinite amount of time, you could learn the same thing, yes. But the amount of research it takes to go to it and to be able to adapt to what the client needs can't easily be replaced. Same as what Quinton is saying is sometimes the client doesn't know what they need or don't need, and they need somebody to ask them those questions back. Right? You can, if you look for a very specific thing, you could probably find that specific thing, but you don't have the context of knowing whether that's the right fit for you.
And I think that we forget our own psychology, and much like dating, often the thing we're attracted to is not the thing we need. And so getting what you want and getting what you need does not have to be mutually exclusive, but finding where they overlap usually requires a human.
Well said.
I love it. Gentlemen, you've made the show absolutely easy. A host is only as good as his guests, and you guys are stellar guests. I would love an opportunity to offer you some closing thoughts. I would very much encourage my very well-dressed friend over here, Lee Elberson, to establish a Facebook page with his name on it. I believe one is in the works over there.
Yes, Jared has asked me 3 times this week. I'm going to set it up this weekend. God, fun. It feels like something guttural is just like...
I'm tagging Quinton Beckham in all these posts, but I can't tag Lee, if you've noticed. Mm-hmm. And I would love for you to be able to see all the comments that are coming in that are quite positive. And I think, frankly, you have a voice and something to say that is valuable to the community.
I appreciate that.
And frankly speaking, when someone Googles Lee Elberson, which I encourage everyone to Google Lee Elberson right now, they will see Lee Elberson and the I Love CVille show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's great.
They'll see Lee Elberson
That's
and the
awesome.
I Love
It's
CVille show.
good for you, and then I don't have to do any extra work.
Let's see here. Let's go with some closing thoughts, though. Quinton Beckham, you have quite a few agents watching right now. Maggie Gunnell says, fantastic thoughts today. You're getting props from Sarah Hill-Buchensky. Ray Cadell's giving you some props. I count 7 different real estate firms, team members watch today. Show is yours, QB.
We've been talking a lot about small business and local and community and ways in which we support our community, and it's definitely been a week where that's heavily on everybody's mind. There's a vigil tomorrow where there used to be a football game, and although we are not unique, we are close-knit, and it's been something that folks have felt. And although we're experiencing a loss, I would just encourage people to remember that if you do believe in a soul, the things that give your soul substance are the acts of kindness, the love that you give in the community that you support, and that is a way for all of those folks that we've lost to continue to live on and to do those things. So just support one another, continue to support your community. That comes in a lot of shapes and forms, and maybe take a deep breath, be a little kinder. I know that we talk about how bad things are going to be, but they're not that bad, and our lives are not that bad. So hang on to one another a little bit tighter this weekend, and remember that there are ways to be the opposite of the things that have been so difficult.
Beautiful. You got to follow that, my friend.
Well, I mean, with that sentiment, I think following a tragedy like we experienced earlier this week at UVA, I think it's important to recognize that in a small community like this, the trauma just reverberates throughout the community and is independent of age, social status. I mean, we all feel it, and on a national level, it's scary to think that this is another statistic, but on a local level, this is an intensely tragic event. And I think what binds us as humans is that your immediate thought is, what would I have done if this were me? Who was the last person I talked to? Or if this was, like, what was the last person I said to this person? If I knew one of these students, what was the last thing I said to them? And was it nice enough, right? Anyone who's gone through a tragedy thinks that. And so I'll echo what Quinton said, and that's that just try to be more empathetic and be kind to everyone around you, and realize that if somebody is upset with you, most of the time there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes that you don't know, and you just may be a vent for that, and the best thing you can do is just let that person vent and say, what can I do to make your day better? We are in a community-centric town. The nonprofit density here is higher than anywhere else in the country, and what that means is that there's many people in Charlottesville that care about making this a better place, and so just show the love in Charlottesville.
Poignant perspective from both gentlemen. Well said. And is that an actual verified statistic, the nonprofit density? Is that per capita?
Per capita, yeah, right.
That's
obviously,
true?
Absolute number. Yeah, I did some research. I searched some of the major cities you expect, San Francisco, New York, and looked at those. When I ran the statistics, you have to qualify these things, and so with a few exceptions, I think functioning nonprofits in Charlottesville per capita, it's higher than anywhere else.
There's a stat. I just learned another item here on the show. Quinton Beckham, Keller Williams Alliance, Lee Elberson, Clayborne Education, stakeholders in the community, and just all around good guys. Judah Wickower is the director. My name is Jerry Miller. The I Love CVille show is up in 56 minutes. Have a good Friday morning. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Nicely done, my friends. Very nicely done. You will tell us when the mics are off here.
Good show, Quentin. Okay, you want to, okay.